What movie did you walk out of? Titanic. Left to go use the restroom and went back in only to find I could not remember where I sat. The place was full, so I left. There's a story that my brother tells me that my mom almost got up with my sister, brother and I from a Shrek movie because he farted in the hot tub. Jurassic Park. When the dino spit in Newman's face, I lost it. As a 6-year-old infatuated with dinosaurs and all things prehistoric, I was not prepared for how vicious they would be in a realistic situation. I've never walked out a movie, but one of the most hysterical moments I've ever seen in a theater was the first 10 minutes of the South Park movie. Apparently, a lot of kids convinced their parents, who had no knowledge of the movie, to take them. Cue Terrence and Phillip's Uncle Fluffer song. Theater was full at the opening credits. Half full before the end of Uncle Fluffer. The Avengers. https://www.imdb.com/title/tt01186661/ The one about British spies, not superheroes. Sean Connery was the villain. There was a scene that involved people dressed as Grateful Dead bears taking a vote around a big table, and that was enough. Jack and Jill with Adam Sandler. I don't know what the fluff I was thinking, hoping it was going to be a return to classic Sandler. I was wrong. I was so fluffing wrong. Edit. You can watch it here for free. http://watchvoodoo.live/Jack-and-Jill. Warning, it's very bad, hard to get through the first hour of it. I walked out of Napoleon Dynamite to go to the bathroom and an over-officious employee wouldn't let me back in. Also, I missed the final 20 minutes of Casino Royale when the fire alarm in the cinema went off and we all got evacuated. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. After really enjoying the whole Percy Jackson book series, I was really disappointed on how the movie was pretty much nothing like the book. It didn't even have the same plot. Paranormal Activity 1. I saw a black guy get up after the first jump scare and just say, well, that's it for me, y'all enjoy the movie. Fant 4 Stick was a darn travesty of a movie pretending to be a Fantastic Four movie. I get they were going for a body horror vibe and were going off the ultimate version of the FF, but you still have to make the characters likable first. I went to see Sicario a few days after it came out. 7 p.m. on a Tuesday, shortly after the movie starts, they're doing a raid on a house that's allegedly owned by the cartels. A mother walks into the theater with her son who looks as if he's maybe 5 years old, and her newborn. She sits down near the entrance, bottom left. Almost immediately, the scene where they accidentally shoot a wall and discover that the dry wall is hiding rows of corpses in plastic bags starts. The newborn starts crying because it's a loud scene. Gunshots. The boy looks terrified. 3 minutes later, the newborn is still screaming at the top of its lungs. I finally decide to go say something to the lady, since none of the 6 other people in the theater are doing anything about it. I walk up, crouch next to the end of the aisle and say, "Hey, would you mind taking your kid out of the theater at least until it stops crying?" She looks at me with daggers in her eyes and says, "Fluff off, mind your own business." The boy turns to look at me, and he's clearly scared. This isn't a kids' movie by a long shot. I walked back up to my seat, grab my jacket, and leave the theater to find a team meeting of the theater employees. They're talking about customer satisfaction. I do the upward nod of acknowledgement to the guy who's dressed differently because he seems to be in charge, and he meets me at the counter, where I tell him what just happened, and ask for my money back because I know they won't rewind the movie. 2 weeks later, I went back and saw it without kids in the room. It was a great movie. Aragon. God, I love the books, but the movie sucks ass. After Earth. It wasn't even remotely good at all, and it also wasn't a so bad it's good movie. Jaden Smith was just awful and a lot of the movie was incredibly boring. Also, Jaden Smith's weird accent in the movie changed halfway through. It was so incredibly distracting and it made me realize that I would much rather just be doing anything else. Went to see it with a friend on the premiere. Near the end suddenly the audio got cut off, then the lights got turned on, and after a while the movie stopped playing too. Took them about 15 minutes to even send anyone in to tell us they didn't know what the problem was, let alone how to fix it. Only did it once. Even during bad movies I stay because I paid a lot of money for ticket and popcorn, drink, so for me to walk out in a movie would take a lot. I did it for Avatar, The Last Airbender. It was already starting off as a garbage movie, but I was still going to continue to stay for reasons above. However, I left after maybe 20 minutes. When Katara said, "Avatar Arn," did no one fluffing watch the cartoon, anime to know it's Aang? I felt incredibly insulted and just left. Being John Malkovich, but only because I got food poisoning from a mussel pasta that I ate earlier in the day. I recommend the film. I do not recommend the restaurant. Almost Wicker Man, but then it was so bad I ended up going all in on its terrible glory. I took a little nephew to Cars 2. I didn't care for it, but I never expected to. But he was getting restless, bored, asked if he wanted to finish. He said no, we got ice cream. More enjoyable. That movie where the train wouldn't stop. Lol. None. I paid for that movie, so I will endure and then shred it to anyone who will listen until I get the perceived entertainment value I paid for. I've wanted to walk out of lots, but I was always trapped in the theater with two wise-cracking robots. Holmes and Watson was fluffing abysmal. Never walked out of any, but I was darn close to doing so during Purge, election year. Instead, I realized that my friends were sleeping too, so I just went back to napping. I got to see Avengers Endgame on the weekend it came out, but before we got to the big fight at the end, there happened to be a thunderstorm while it was playing. The power went out in the theater and I guess they had no backup generator. We were told that it was being handled for about 20 minutes until they just told us to leave. Polar Express. I saw it in IMAX when I was really little, and the scene where he was trying to catch the train really scared me for some reason. Technically, all of them. It was 2012. My heavily Christian stepmother was raving about the new talking teddy bear movie she was going to take my 2-year-old little sister to see. That movie was Ted. I tried multiple times to tell her that that movie wasn't for children, but because I was a child myself, my stepmother was adamant to ignore my opinion. I wanted to see Ted anyway, so fluff it, I'll get to see it, was how I went about it after being ignored for the 5th or 6th time that week. We finally got to the movie theater. I watched her buy the tickets, and we walked in. We sat down just as the movie was starting. Chaos ensued when John's father let out one beautiful Jesus H. fluff, and my stepmother and her mom both stood up, grabbed my little sister and said, "We need to go." I never got to watch Ted. That moment was so funny I didn't even mind not seeing the movie. Their faces were priceless and I didn't even bother with an "I told you so" because it probably would have gotten me in more trouble. I guess you could say we ran out of the theater. Blair Witch, so was getting motion sickness. Zoolander 2, stupidest thing ever, one big reel of celebrity grab ass. Last thing I remember is Katy Perry singing in some acid trip sort of dream scene and said, "Fluff this." After reading the reviews, it seems I made the right choice. Pan. I was so excited to watch it because I'm a huge Peter Pan fan. I left the theater in the middle of their first Nirvana song and I was extremely disappointed and mad at how awful of a movie it was. I dropped a hit of acid and went to see Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I made it to the bar scene where everyone was a fish. Rock of HC actually couldn't leave because I was with my then housemate. Fist day we met, actually, and he had driven. He enjoyed the movie and was low-key offended I didn't. I tried to lie and told him I enjoyed it, but he pointed out that not only had I fallen asleep during various points of the movie, I also went to the bathroom, aka loitered in the lobby, about 5 times. That movie felt eternal. I like classic rock and I like musicals, so I am still amazed at how bad that movie was. I had a panic attack in the first 20 minutes of World War Z because my dumb self thought seeing a zombie movie would cure me of my zombie fear. Well, it didn't, and I ended up being ushered into Despicable Me 2 to wait until the rest of my family finished their zombie film. I made a date cry and leave Hateful Eight if that counts. I really needed to pee before the final act of Avengers Endgame. So I ran out and tripped on the stairs on my way out. Maybe doesn't quite count, but I went to go see a Stuart Little movie, I think it was a sequel, with my grandma when I was a kid, and I think there was a scene where he fell into a garbage truck or something and we had to leave because I was so worried about Stuart that I started crying. A Wrinkle in Timajesus Christ, it sucked. Whatever Transformers had the dinosaur robots in it. I had never seen a single movie in the series before that, so I had no idea what was going on, nor could I follow the basically non-existent plot. I only went because it was playing at my college's movie theater where they would show recent movies for free every week. My friends and I made it maybe halfway through before we just left. Super Mario Bros. Joe's apartment. Meet the Spartans have made some bad choices. My friend bailed out of I Am Legend when the dog died, since it was very similar looking to her own dog, and was even also a girl. I joined her out of solidarity. The internship, cringy Google advert that we actually had to pay to see. I turned off Sausage Party after the orgy scene. Not out of outrage, just because the whole film had just been tremendously unfunny, and this was the final squirt of the juice box. Maybe it would work as a 10-minute skit, but it was just poor all round. Swearing can be hilarious but is not a substitute for humor, and the parts that were meant to be funny were like hearing an average joke retold by someone else.